Good afternoon, everybody. How is everyone today? If you're feeling good, say good. Excuse me, I just drink some water. Okay. Oh, excellent. Super good. Wow. Super good, not bad, good. Wow, excellent. I'm perfect also. Good. Good. Well, let's hope you'll feel good at the end of today's class. Okay. Now, yesterday we did an introduction to IELTS, the International English Language Testing System. And today we're just going to be looking at some quick strategies for part 1. Yeah. So, part 1, the purple box, strategies for part 1. Here we go. Now, when you do your speaking, part 1. Now, one of the good things about the IELTS test is there's very rarely anything strange. You get the same broad topics in every test. And on this sheet on this slide I've just put up, it's got some of the broad topics for part 1. Now, when you do your IELTS speaking test, remember the examiner is going to ask you 3 sets of questions about you. They're always about you. And very often the examiner will, not always, but often the examiner will start by saying, do you work or are you a student? If you say, I am a student, then the examiner will ask you to talk about your studies. Remember what I said yesterday? A few simple sentences. No one-word answer if you can help it. Don't worry about complex grammar, complex vocabulary. A few simple sentences about everyday simple topics. And here's a few of the topics here. The examiner might ask about your house, your street, or your city. Now listen carefully to the examiner. If the examiner says, can you tell me about your house? Don't talk about your family. The examiner means describe the house. Imagine you're standing in the street looking at your house. You describe what it looks like. And then you go inside your house and you briefly describe what the building looks like. Many students, when you ask, tell me about your house, they will talk about their family. They are not answering the question. Then the second one on the list is the most common topic. They ask about your job or your study. A few simple sentences. I study engineering at the University of Beijing. I'm in the first year and I study many subjects including physics and maths. Talk about your daily routine, what you do every day. Remember, that would have to be present simple. Talk about things you did when you were a child. You'll notice actually this is one of the ways the examiner is going to test your grammar. They'll ask about things you did in the past, and you would be expected to speak in past tense. If the examiner asks to talk about something you do every day, obviously you must use present simple. So listen to the time involved and get your grammar correct. They might ask about things you own. A car, a bicycle. Obviously, many people when they answer this question, they talk about their cell phone. That's good. So before your exam, you could look at your cell phone and work out, how am I going to describe it in a few simple sentences? They might ask about hobbies, things you like to do, gardening, sports, reading. Now, if the examiner asks, what is your hobby? My advice is, do not say shopping and sleeping, because there's very little else you can talk about. Talk about an actual hobby. And the one I like to ask, they ask about a special food or a special event in your country. So they might say, what's your favourite festival? And you might talk about the Spring Festival. Or they might talk about a special food in your town. So all of these topics are very common, nothing strange, and you can prepare before the test. Prepare some simple answers. Now, here's some typical question types. We've looked at the topics. Now let's look at the types of questions. And there's 5 examples on the screen here. The first one, have you ever? Have you ever been to America? Or the examples on here, much simpler examples. Have you ever ridden a bike? Been to a football match? And remember, have you ever? The answer should be, yes, I have. No, I haven't. It's perfectly okay to say no, you haven't, if you haven't done it. Don't make it up. Did you? Did you play football when you were a child? Obviously, you must answer in the past tense. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Which do you prefer? Tea or coffee, wet or dry weather? I prefer blah, blah, blah. Do you think that children should read the newspaper? Do you think children should have a pet? Yes, I do. No, I don't. Simple answers. And the last type. When did you start to learn English? When did you start learning English? Now, here's a tip. Always listen to the examiner, and when you answer, if you use the same tense, you're probably going to be accurate. When did you start learning English? I started learning English when I was 5 years old. Using the same sentences will prevent you from making mistakes. Using the same words, the same grammar will prevent you making a mistake. And that's what we do in everyday English. Right. So I'm just gonna, if you look at this very quickly. So remember, you're going to get sets of questions. There'll be a main question with follow-up questions, and they could be on any topic during the test. Now, as someone asked me yesterday, if you can't understand, ask the examiner to repeat the question. Just say, sorry, could you repeat that please? Or, sorry, I couldn't hear. Could you repeat that please? Remember, you can't ask the examiner to help you. All the examiner can do is repeat the question a little louder and a little slower. So hopefully on the second listening, you will be able to understand and answer the question. Now, the second point on the screen, the second bulletin point, again, you're going to be asked about a broad range of topics. Now, remember, IELTS is a test of English vocabulary. But most of all, it's a test of speaking in a natural, fluent way. You're not expected to be an expert on all of these topics, yeah? So don't get too, don't get too concerned about the topic if you think it's very technical. You're not expected to know about all of the topics. You're expected to answer in simple, fluent English. And also, as I've already mentioned, if the examiner says, for example, do you like swimming? If you don't, say no. You don't have to say, yes, I do. Tell the truthful answer. Because if you say something that's not truthful, the follow-up questions will be more difficult to answer. Always tell the truth when you answer the questions. You're not going to lose any marks. By the way, it's really inadvisable. It's not good advice to try to memorize answers before the test. A lot of students, I'll say, tell me about your studies. And I know that they've been practicing before the test and they've remembered and they're repeating because it sounds very artificial. So try not to depend too much on memorizing answers because it's not real English. As I've said already, try not to use one-word answers. 2 or 3 simple sentences. And again, as we talked yesterday, if you speak for too long, the examiner will stop you. That's not a bad thing. Don't be worried if the examiner stops you. It's just that there's a limited time for the test and the examiner needs to ask every question. Because of the point I made yesterday, everybody in the world must get the same test. And finally, the final point, beware of your grammar. If the examiner asks you a question about your past, you must talk about your past. If they talk about something you've ever done, you use a perfect tense. If they talk about the future, use future tenses. So make sure you try not to make any huge grammar mistakes. So that's a lot of information. Any questions so far? If no, type no. And I know you're still there. Okay. Okay. Good. So don't be afraid at any time to ask questions, because the IELTS test is very important for the students, yeah? Good. So let's move on. Now, when I examine students for IELTS, it's interesting that different nationalities make different sorts of mistakes. So if I'm examining in Thailand, I've got an idea of the grammatical errors that students are going to make. I know there's going to be a problem with the perfect tenses. I know which words they're going to find difficult to pronounce. And it's the same with Chinese students. There's a broad range of grammatical errors which Chinese students tend to make. Here's 3 examples. 3 examples here. It's be plus do plus something. It's the verb to be plus do plus something. It's a very common mistake. It's also, by the way, very common in writing. I am come from Beijing. No, I come from Beijing. If I say, where do you come from? I come from Beijing. Where do you come from? I come from China. A very common mistake, students will say, I am come from Beijing. It's a very common mistake in writing and speaking. So when you correct your writing, also check for this very common mistake. I think the problem comes because you can say, I'm from Beijing. I come from Beijing. I'm from Beijing. But you cannot say, I am come from Beijing. And I'll just say once more, this happens a lot in writing. So be very careful of that mistake. Now, the next one, the modal verbs. If everybody knows what modal verbs are, can you type yes? If you don't know what they are, can you type no? The modal verbs. Let me just type that for you. If you know what they are, can you type yes? If you do not know what they are, can you type no? Yes. Oh, I've only got one answer. Yes. So yes. Also, most people, because I think modal verbs is the second most common mistake that I come across. Some examples of modal verbs, as you all know. There's some examples, yeah. And there's an awful lot of mistakes with modal verbs, yeah. Because modal verb must be followed by the base form of the verb. So if you take a simple verb like jump, after a modal verb, actually that was a very bad example. So I'm going to change that example because it's a regular verb. If I think of a better example, something like swim. Now, after a modal verb, can, could, shall, should, may, might, you always must use the base form of the verb infinitive. So you could say, I can swim, I could swim, I will swim, I would swim, I shall swim, I should swim. There's never any exception to this rule. It's a very fixed rule. And I come across a lot of mistakes with the modal. And also because of this. A lot of students will put in to. So they'll say, for example, I can to swim. I should to jump. I must, a very common would be something like, I must to go shopping. No, the modal must be followed by the verb. So be very careful with your modals. And as the example on the sheet shows, I couldn't find it. You cannot say, I couldn't found it. Yeah? Be very careful of your modals. It's the number one or the number two mistake that I see in not just Chinese, but in many nationalities when they're using English. And again, it's not only in speaking. The problems with the modals happens a lot with writing. So before your test, try to brush up on your modal verbs. Yeah? It's a really big mistake. And the third example I've got here is the adverb plus the noun. Yeah? For example, you've got in recently 2 years. No. The adverb plus the noun is in recent years, in the last 2 years. Another very common mistake is the structure when you've got the adverb with ly plus noun. Yeah. So these on the sheet on the slide are three examples of very common mistakes in grammar. So before your test, brush up on your grammar. But as I say, particularly your modal verbs and the verb to be. Any questions? Any more questions? Yes or no? Let me see you type. No questions. Oh, that's nice to hear. That's nice to see. So hopefully everybody understands perfectly. Good. So let's move on to our next slide. We're going to do a little bit of practice. Yeah, a little bit of practice. And don't forget, any questions, you can either type them or ask them. I don't mind at all getting questions. So let's move on to part 2. Right. Now, you can choose to answer me. Yeah. If I said, have you ever cooked a meal for your family? Yeah. Would you first, could you type a very simple answer? Very simple. Have you ever cooked a meal for your family? Could you type the answer? Good. Anybody else? Have you ever cooked a meal for your family? So I've got, no, I have not. Good. So the answer is, oops, sorry. Now, it's interesting. Good. So I'm going to tell you what answers we've got. We've got, have you ever cooked a meal for your family? And we've got the simple answer, yes, I have. Or, no, I haven't. Yes, I have. Or, no, I haven't. If you just look at the grammar within the question and use the same grammar in the answer, you're going to have fewer mistakes. Have you ever cooked a meal for a family? Yes, I have. No, I haven't. Someone's written, yes, just once. Good. So, have you ever? Yes, I have. No, I haven't. Simple answer. Now, the next question. Which do you prefer? Getting an email or a text message? You cannot say yes. Very often I'll ask somebody, do you prefer coffee or tea? And they'll say yes. I don't know why. You must choose one. Which do you prefer? Getting an email or a text message? Now, if I say, do you like tea? Do you prefer tea or coffee? You can just simply say tea. Or you can just simply say coffee. But remember what I keep saying. Try not to use one-word answers. Yeah? Now, I want you to look at this question very carefully. Which do you prefer, getting an email or a text message? Yeah? You can simply say, as someone said, a text message. Correct. But if you say prefer, if you want to put prefer into your answer, you should really say getting. I prefer getting a text message. Yeah? To make sure you're not making mistakes. So again, which do you prefer, getting an email or a text message? An email, or I prefer getting an email. If you just use the same words in the question, it'll prevent you making errors. Good, that's good. Yes, that's good. So, good. So I prefer getting a text message. I prefer getting a text message. I prefer getting a text message. I prefer to text a message. Well, that would not be correct, because if you say I prefer to text a message, that means you are sending the message. But the question is about receiving the message. So the answer is, if you wanted, you would say, I prefer getting. You could use a synonym. I could use receiving. But if you change getting to, you've changed the meaning completely, from receiving to sending. So you haven't answered the question. You've answered the question wrongly. Now, look at this one. When did you watch your first movie in a cinema? Again, there's two ways you can answer this. You could just say the time, or you could say, 3 years ago, last Saturday. But it's better to give a sentence using the same words. When did you watch your first movie in a cinema? You can say, I watched it 10 years ago. You can say, I cannot remember. So I've just got one question. I'm going to come back in 2 minutes. Can you type the answer? When did you watch your first movie in a cinema? Let me look at some typed answers. I cannot remember. Good. Any more answers? That's when I had my first date. Good. But one sec, let's go. That's when I had my first date. That's present. That's present tense. Really, you should be using past tense. That was when I had my first date. Maybe 10 years ago. Good. When I was a child. Good. That was blah, blah, blah. Good. So the answer would have to be in the past. It could be any answer, but grammatically, you would have to speak in the past. Now, can we go back to the question about, do you prefer getting an email or a message? Because I've got a really, really good answer. The answer was, it depends. Let me type this. It depends. This is a really good answer. If I said to you, how do you like to travel? And someone answered me, well, I like to travel by bus. And I thought, well, you go from China to America by bus? No, you cannot go from China to America by bus. So if you get a question like, which do you prefer? Think about the situation. Which do you prefer? Getting an email or a text message? Well, if you're at work and you wanted a lot of detail, a lot of formal detail, you couldn't really send that in a text. You'd need to send it in an email. So you think, well, you say, it depends. If it's a message from my friend about something to do this evening, I prefer a text message. If I need more information, if it's more formal, if I need attachments, I would send an email. Yes. Not just on the distance. For example, if I said to you, do you prefer coffee or tea? Well, I would answer, it depends on the time of day, because I only drink coffee in the morning, but I drink tea in the afternoon. So I would say, it depends on the time of day. About the transport, I would say, it depends where I'm going. If I'm traveling within my city, I will go by subway. It's very fast and efficient. If I'm going to from Beijing to a far city, I'll go by high-speed train. If I'm going across countries, I may go by plane. It depends on the distance. It depends on where I'm going. It depends on how much time I have. So it depends is a very good answer. Is that right? Good. So let me see some more typed answers. Now look at the question. Look at the words of the question very carefully. And I'm going to ask you the question. Can you type the answer? Do you like shopping for clothes? Let me see some answers. Do you like shopping for clothes? Any answers? Yes, I do. Good. Yes. Do you like? Yes. Do you like shopping for clothes? The answer is yes, I do. No, I don't. Yes, I am fond of it. Definitely, especially online. Good answers, yeah? So do you like? You must have yes or no. Do you like yes? Do you like no? And then more information. You could just say, yes, I do. But remember, if it's your IELTS test, speak in sentences. It's a very good answer. One answer, definitely, especially online. Or, oh yes, I love shopping for clothes, especially if I go with my friends, because we can spend time together, we can look at the clothes. Good. So again, always focus. No one-word answers. Yes, I do. It's good English, but let's have some extra. Again, now the next question, it's a do question. Yes, I do. No, I don't. Now, do you think that we spend too much time sitting in front of computers? Now, that's a strange question because it's using idiomatic language. Sitting in front of computers. Yeah. The question doesn't refer to sitting. The question is, do we spend too much time on the computer? Do we spend too much time on the computer? That's what you need to answer. So again, let's type an answer. Do we spend too much time on the computer? Type me an answer. Oh, definitely yes. Good answer. Yes, I think so. Good answer. So we've got the answer, yes. And then remember, if this was your IELTS test, continue and explain why. Do you think we spend too much time sitting in front of computers? Yes, maybe. Good answer. Yes, I do. Yes, that's common for youngsters. As long as we have an answer, but remember, try to make your answer a little bit longer. Give your reasons why you think yes or why you think no. You say, well, yes, I do. Computers are taking over our lives. We use it for communicating with people. We use it for watching TV. We use it at work, for texting. It's for reading books. We can't escape from computers. So always qualify your answers. But there's some good answers you've sent me. Yeah, good answers. Good. Now, part 3. Now, I'm going to just quickly go this because I want to answer some more questions. Now, I'm going to, sometimes in IELTS, some of the questions are not easy. Some of the questions are a bit strange. And I'm just going to look at some examples. Here's an example. Who gave you your name? Well, if someone asked me that, I wouldn't know. Got no idea. So, if I asked you, who gave you your name? Can you type me your answer? sorry. My mom. Now, when you type my mom give me my name. So that's a better answer because my mom, it's correct. A little bit short. So I've got an answer here from Potent. My mother gave me my name. Yeah. My grandparents gave me my name. Here's a good answer. My father gave me my name when I was born. Good. My father, and it's a meaningful name. Now the long answers are much better English, yeah? So always remember, try to make your sentences longer and more interesting. I'm just going to look at a couple more. Oh, sorry, I've gone too fast. Now, this is another strange question. Does your name have any particular meaning or a special meaning? Now, that's a strange question, yeah? How would you answer that question? Let me have a look at some of your answers. Does your name have a special meaning or a particular meaning? Let me have a look at what you would answer in the test. Any answers? Does your name have a particular meaning? Does it mean anything? Let me have a look at some answers. There's a very good answer. I've got an answer here. Absolutely. Please allow me to give an explanation. Good. Absolutely. My parents helped me to be knowledgeable and successful in the future. Now that would be a very good answer in the IELTS test. Yeah? Now I would answer, wow, here's a very good answer, another very good answer. Yes, it means beautiful and peaceful. Peaceful, what's your spelling? My name means beautiful and peaceful. Now there's some good answers. Oh, wow. Of course, my grandfather gave me this name according to the Book of Change. And then you could explain what the Book of Change means. Good. Wow, it means beautiful. Yeah? So there's some very good answers. My mother, wow, that's another very good answer. My father gave me the name in a hope of a strong-willed daughter. There's some very good answers here. Very good. So remember, what I'm saying all the time, avoid one-word answers. Now, if someone said to me, what's your name? I would say, oh, my name's Paul. And if they said, does your name have any special meaning? I would say something like, oh yes, my name comes from the Bible, because many people in Christian countries, their parents take the name from the Bible. And obviously my name comes from St. Paul. And it actually means rock. Not rock in the sense of a large stone, but rock in the sense of being very stable, very firm. So what I've done is I've given an answer and I've tried to make it as interesting and as complete as possible. Because if your answers are really interesting, your mark is going to go up. So there's some good answers, yeah? Now I'm going to ask another one. Now it's another do question. So really, this is one of the, do you like your name? Well, you can say, yes, I do. No, I don't. But again, it's too short. Yeah? So you say, yes, I do. Explain why. No, I don't. Explain mine. Let me have a look at some answers. I'm going to ask you the question. Type the answer. Do you like your name? And I want yes, I do, with a reason. No, I don't. Reason. Let me have a look at some answers. Do you like your name? Oh, no answers coming. Let's have a look at some typed answers. Let's have some answers. Do you like your name? Wow. Good. Good. Oh, good. 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 Interesting answers. Very interesting answers. I'm going to read these. We've got, yes, I do. My name is wonderful. Good. I don't like the second word in my name. Interesting. Not really. My Chinese name looks like a boy's name. Yes, I like it because it's unique and wonderful. No, because I think is not good to pronounce. No, because I think it is not good to pronounce. It'd be better to say no, I think it's not easy to pronounce. No, it's very common. Wow, some good answers here. Some good answers. So this is very good. Now this is the sort of answers that the examiner wants to see. Yes, I do. Some reason, and try to make it very interesting. This is very interesting, yeah. So I like these answers. These are very good answers. This is what I like. If I'm doing the IELTS test, these are the sort of answers I like to hear. I'll explain just want to say something quickly. When the examiner does the IELTS test and a student comes in the room and the examiner says, "What's your name?" and the student says, "John." You think, okay, what do you do? I'm a student. Where do you study? University. When the student keeps giving the examinee keeps giving these small answers, the examiner has got to drag more information from the student. And dragging that information from the student becomes very tiring. And all the time, the examiner's looking at the watch, looking at the clock, because you've only got 12 minutes. And a good examiner really wants to hear you listen. So they're trying to drag information out of you, but it gets very tiring. If a student comes in and you say, "What's your name?" "Oh, my name's Paul. Hi. What do you do?" "Oh, I'm a student. I'm a third-year student at I'm studying engineering at Bangkok at Beijing Normal University." And the examiner thinks, "Wow, this is going to be easy, and you're going to get a better mark." If you're speaking in fluent English, interesting sentence, your mark is going to go up. But your answers are very good. So I'm just going to look at a few more questions. We'll just finish this one section. I know it's supposed to be after class reading, but I just want to do some extra practice. Type me the answer. Now, it has to be two parts. Yes or no. Why? Type me an answer. Are you willing to change your name? Why? Let me have a look at some answers. Go on, get typing, type the answers. Are you willing to change your name and why? Oh, no answers coming yet. Now there's an answer. Very good. That's a very good answer. Very good answer. No, I'm not willing to change my name. As I said, I like my name very much. So you've answered no, and you've said why. And so the answer is much more interesting for the examiner. Now the next one, no, maybe I won't because I like my name very much. It contains much, great meanings, many great meanings. It contains great meanings. You don't need the much. Good. Oh, that's a good answer. No, I don't want to change it because it's a present from my parents. So we're answering an interesting long questions. I just want to finish this section just to give you some idea of what you're wanting. Good. Last question from this section. Now, wow, nice answers, nice answers. So when I read your answer, from all of your answers, it comes across that you have very close relationships with your parents. And for me, that's interesting. And that's much better than just saying, yes, I do, no, I don't. Yeah. Now, last question in this section, and now this is something I know nothing about. So this is really interesting for me, but I don't want you to type too much because we don't have very much time. If I say, just give me one example, and remember, you're going to try to make me interested. What meanings are there in the nicknames of Chinese children? If there are none, say none. If there are meanings, give me one little example of a meaning in the nickname of Chinese children. Because it's something I know nothing about. Oh, there's a good answer. Yes, I want to change my name to another beautiful one. Good answer. Well, let me have a look. Meanings in the names of nicknames of Chinese children. Oh, well, we're a bit slow on this one. While we're waiting, I'm just going to quickly run just through these next set of questions. Now, these are the types of questions. Good. That's fine. Good. They would like to show their personality or idols by their nicknames. Good. I have no idea. Wow, good. Yes, again, good answers. I have no idea about it. I only know that my nickname is my last word of my name. Good. Don't worry about speaking because from tomorrow we're going to be doing lots more speaking together. Today I want you to focus on looking at the types of questions that are coming up and to get into the habit of answering in sentences. That's a very good answer. There's some good answers. This is just the sort of thing the examiner wants to hear. These are good answers. Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a nice long answer. It answers the questions. So when you practice at home or in your class, focus on making your sentences as interesting as possible. Several sentences. Don't make it too long, and make sure your grammar is correct. Now, it's interesting to see because all of you have got pretty good grammar and pretty good vocabulary. And also, what's really nice to see is that you're using informal everyday language. Because remember what I said yesterday, the IELTS test is not a test of formal English. It's a test of everyday English. Good. Good. Now here's some more questions about leisure activities. Now, these are just the sort of things you see all the time. Now remember, when you talk about your hobbies, your interests, try to sound a little bit interesting. If the examiner says, what do you like to do in your free time? Don't say sleeping and shopping. I mean, everybody likes sleeping and shopping, but always remember that IELTS is an academic exam. So we're trying to be a little bit academic. Now, some of the questions, if you look at this slide, what places in your home time do you go to in your leisure time? How often do you go outside every week? Remember the adverbs of frequency. What activities do you usually do when you go outside? Do you spend enough time doing outdoor activities? Now remember, get your grammar correct. I just want to check one thing. I want to check your adverbs of frequency. I'm going to ask you one question. Let me see if you get this correct. And I want to see your typed answers. Here's the question. How often do you go outside every week? This question actually means how often do you go for leisure activities? So I'm going to ask the question. How often do you go outside for leisure activities every week? Let me see some answers. See how your adverbs of frequency are. How often do you go outside for leisure activities every week? Waiting for the answers. Oh, slow coming. Come on, get some typing. There's a good answer. Normally speaking, once a week. Actually, it would be better to say, normally speaking, I would prefer usually or normally. Normally, once a week. The next answer, just once. Remember, that's a little bit short. Remember, we're trying to get the answers. There's a better answer. Generally, once a week. Good answer. Now, here's a very good answer because it's longer, it's interesting, it's more information. I love exercising. Good. So I go for leisure activities 5 times a week because you've got good grammar and you've got vocabulary. There's a good answer. Yes, it depends. It depends. Most often, once a week. Yeah? It'd be better if you had a but in there. It depends. But most often, once a week. So there's some good answers with correct grammar and with some good vocabulary. Wow. So now, some more answers. Once a week, every weekend I will go out. Be careful of this one. If the answer is why do you go out? The answer is to relax. To plus verb infinitive. Once a week, every weekend I will go out to relax. I will go out. Why? To relax. Here's an if clause. If it's sunny, blah, blah, blah. But if it's cloudy, there's an if clause. It allows you to use your grammar. I go out for activities nearly every day. Good. Don't worry about making mistakes. It doesn't matter at all. That's why we're here to learn. And the best way to improve is by learning from your mistakes. So it's better to try to use English and make mistakes than never to use it. So good answers. Now, I haven't got very much time, so when you practice for your speaking test, remember, I keep saying this over and over again, it's so important. No one-word answers. Several simple sentences. Try to make it long and get your grammar correct. Remember what we said earlier with the problem of modal verbs and the problem with the verb to be. Yeah. So, and the adverbs of frequency, but your adverbs of frequency are good. So try to make sure you're making as few grammatical mistakes as possible. And if you look, there's some after class reading. There's some questions about mobile phones. Yeah. There's the question about the internet. And when we go on the in the next class, we're going to do more strategies for part 1, and then the next time we'll get some conversation flowing. Yeah. Now, so what I'd like you to do, if you've got any free time, look at the after class reading, the internet, mobile phone, leisure activities, and try to answer them as interestingly, with several sentences, and using the correct grammar. Good. Any questions today? Any questions? If you ask questions, it makes me feel important. Any questions? No, well, I'll just type. So, thank you, everyone. So, I hope that helps a little. And you're all going to have wonderfully interesting conversations in your IELTS test. So, bye-bye, everyone. Go and type bye-bye so I know you're alive. Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you. Thank you, Sky. Thank you, Potent. Thank you, Emily. Chat again tomorrow. Have a lovely day, okay? Bye-bye. 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 See you tomorrow. Thank you. I'm out.